subscribe button, hit the bell icon, hit that like, comment, and share button.
Don't get caught flat-footed. That's something my coach always taught me. Don't get caught flat-footed. So, and what he meant by that was don't get caught off guard. You got to be ready for anything. And, when you're flat-footed in the sports world, of course, I'm not the athlete out there. But when I did play middle school and high school football, they always say, hey, stay on your toes. Stay on your toes. When you can defend better when you're on your toes, you're ready for anything. And the only way to be ready for anything is to look forward into the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about on this episode, we're going to talk about why October 29th is going to be such a big day and week for the NASDAQ. So as you're coming in, guys and girls, catching it live, you can definitely tell me where you're from, but we want to stay on topic today. So today's topic, we're going to talk about what is the NASDAQ, the stocks that are in the NASDAQ, the biggest stocks in the NASDAQ, how to invest into the NASDAQ, and why it's so important, why October 29th will be such a big day and a big week for the NASDAQ. But if you haven't done so already, go ahead and make sure.
Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, hit that like, comment, and share button.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and children of all ages, you are now tuned into the Investor Show. As always, this is your gracious host, the Prince of Investing, Prince Dykes, coming to you guys and girls live all the way from the beautiful city and state of Denver, Colorado. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, comment, and share button. And as always, I don't have a lot of time, and I definitely know you guys and girls don't have a lot of time, so we're going to jump straight into it. So the first thing we're going to get into is what is the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, ladies and gentlemen, to keep it simple and easy, it has a market cap of about $10 trillion. It's one of the three major indexes. Our three major indexes are the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ tracks 100 companies. The Dow Jones tracks 30 companies. And the S&P 500, which is the benchmark of finance, tracks a whopping, surprisingly, 500 companies. So the NASDAQ usually focuses on your tech companies. Somebody asked me the other day, Prince, I wanted to invest into the FANG. The FANG is Facebook. It's an acronym that stands for Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Your top big tech companies. So the NASDAQ tracks most of your stocks companies, right? Your big companies. So now we're going to go through and look at, I'm going to pull up on my screen here, the actual companies. Y'all give me 1 second here. Okay. All right, these are the companies that are actually in the NASDAQ. I'm going to list the top 10. Number 1 is Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Alphabet, which is Google, Tesla, and Adobe, Netflix, Intel, or whatnot. That's about 10, 11 companies that are tracked inside of the NASDAQ. Those are stocks that are tracked inside of the NASDAQ. So if you invest into that, you invest into the entire NASDAQ, right? Now, this is going to become very important. What are the biggest companies in the NASDAQ? Why are you worried about the size of companies inside of the NASDAQ? Because you're worried about the biggest companies because the big companies usually decide the direction of the entire index. I'm going to say that again. It's not tracking every company. The weight is not the same, meaning that if you got 100 stocks, it doesn't mean that you got 100 stocks and all of them had 1% inside the NASDAQ. That's not true. Some of them hold more weight than others. So what are the biggest stocks in the NASDAQ? Let's go through the top 5 companies, right? So what I have pulled up right here, this is by the weight. The heaviest weight, Apple. So if Apple, the number 1 is Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. Those hold the big weight. You're talking about together, they're talking about 33% of the NASDAQ, the weight-wise, right? So if Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft all have a bad day, it means that the NASDAQ most likely will have a bad day unless you have one of these small companies that just go crazy. So pretty much wherever the big boys goes is where the NASDAQ goes, right? The companies that it's tracking with inside of the index. So the top weighted companies, number 1 is Apple. Number 2 is Amazon. Number 3 is Microsoft. Number 4 is Facebook. Y'all hear me out again. The top 5 companies that are tracked in the NASDAQ is Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, and Alphabet, which is Google. Keep that in mind. We're going to talk about why that is important later on. Those are the biggest companies in the NASDAQ. Now I'm going to get into the question. Somebody may be listening to this and say, Prince, that's a very good idea you brought up. I want to know, how can I invest into the NASDAQ? These sound like these are some big companies these are everyday companies. I want to invest into the NASDAQ. One of the easiest ways and the most popular way to invest into the NASDAQ is via symbol QQQ. That's Quebec, Quebec, Quebec. It's about $200 something right now per share. And that's how you can invest into the NASDAQ, and you can get a piece of all these companies. For the record, the NASDAQ, out of the major indexes, the NASDAQ has been the biggest and baddest index out of the top three. It has outperformed the Dow Jones. It has outperformed the S&P 500 so far this year, 2020. This has been the year of tech companies. Tech companies have really became big so far this year, just due to the nature of our latest downturn in the market. As people stayed at home, people spent more time on Facebook. People, instead of going to the mall, they ordered more stuff on Amazon. More people YouTube, and they search things. They're on Google. So social media became bigger. Amazon became bigger because that was the choice of what people were using. People are using more computers now than ever. And, Microsoft owns LinkedIn. And I know at a time they own Skype as well. Microsoft owns LinkedIn and Skype. So more people are sitting at home, Zooming and Skyping. So that's what helped them out. Now let's get into the reason why you turned in. All right, Prince, that's some good stuff you told us. Why is October 29th? Why October 29th will be big? Why October 29th will be big for the NASDAQ? All right, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, please. Earnings season. Earnings season is around the corner. So many people are caught up right now with the stimulus package. Oh, are we going to get one passed, or we're not going to get one passed? And right around the corner, you have big tech companies getting ready to release their quarterly earnings. And the reason why the 29th is going to be so big, because you have three of the top five companies in the NASDAQ reporting their earnings pretty much at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, let's walk through it. This is a calendar. Let me pull up my calendar here so you guys and girls can see what it will look like on the calendar I'm looking at. All right, so right here, what I have is a calendar pulled up by TD Ameritrade. This is an earnings calendar. So right here on the 28th, when the market closed on the 28th, once we stop trading on the 28th, Apple is due to report its earnings. Apple, the largest company in the NASDAQ, is due to report its earnings on the 28th. Before the market opens up, you're going to have Amazon and Facebook are going to report their earnings. So on the 28th, when the market closes, when the market opens up on the 29th, you will have the earnings for Apple, Amazon, and Facebook overnight. What did we just say? What were the biggest companies in the NASDAQ? You just heard me say that earlier. The biggest companies in the NASDAQ, the top five of the biggest companies are Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook. So three of the top five companies, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, they combine to be about almost 30% of the NASDAQ. So 30% of the NASDAQ will report their earnings overnight. Right? On the 26th, 2 days prior to that, on the 26th, Google will report its earnings. The week before that, on the 20th, you will have Netflix. Netflix is kind of by itself. Netflix will report on the 20th. The 21st, you got Microsoft and Tesla. On the 26th, you have Google. But a big day, when we stop trading on the 28th and the market opens up on the 29th, we will have 30% of the NASDAQ reporting their earnings at the exact same time. If these earnings are good, this will make the NASDAQ bullish. If these earnings are bad, they will make the NASDAQ go down. So, Facebook, I know Facebook is making a lot of money. Facebook doesn't have any debt. Facebook makes 98% of its money off of ads. And pretty much, Facebook, since it has so much money on ads, they're talking about after the election, they're going to do no more political ads. So that can hurt their ad revenue, I'm assuming. Amazon, I've been saying they had a lot of cases of COVID at their job. So they may try to put out some big stimulus package for COVID. Apple on the 13th. On Tuesday, Apple has a big event where I think they're going to unleash the iPhone 12. So depending on how that iPhone 12 orders go and stuff like that, I don't think it's going to be nothing too exciting about Apple, but Apple could see a nice jump. But on the 29th, you're going to see the NASDAQ its movement is going to be dependent on what Apple, Amazon, and Facebook put out overnight. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got something from this. I want you guys and girls to be proactive versus reactive. Right now, this week, everybody's caught up in the stimulus, and right around the corner, you have so many big things that's going to happen. So you got to be ready. You can't be caught. And my coach said, don't be caught with flat feet. You got to stay on your toes. Instead of, yes, you got to know what's going on today, but how do you look into the future and see how will it move the market? Let me see what you guys and girls saying in the comments before I head out of here. We have William Wills. Good evening, Prince Dykes. William Wills, thank you for checking us out tonight live. Miss Ruby, how you doing, Miss Ruby? Hold on to that Tesla and Apple. Hold on to that Tesla and Apple. You're about to have a wild trade here. Tesla is going to be, she's from Memphis, Tennessee. Tesla is going to be on the 21st. And no, Tesla and Microsoft. Tesla going to be on the 21st. Apple's going to be on the 29th. So the next 2 weeks, you're going to see a lot of movement inside your portfolio. Miss Destiny Robbins. She says, tuning in from Sacramento, California. Looking forward to this one as always. Thank you, Miss Destiny. I hope you got something out of this episode. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on live to do a full episode. This is just something I just wanted to get off my chest. The LO Culture TV puts a smile. Thank you. Karen said, what's going on, Omaha? Oh, you're from Omaha. Okay, Karen, thank you for checking in from Omaha. I've been to Omaha a bunch of times, about 3 or 4 times. I used to go to, I go to Berkshire all the time, but since COVID happened, I wasn't there this year. And the way it's looking like, I won't be there next year either. So, yes. She said, is FANG, Destiny says, is FANG a real thing or is this something you can invest in at once? I haven't found a ETF that tracks just the FANG. Yes, the FANG is a real thing where they always talk about it. It's 2 A's actually. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. So it's FAANG. Yes, it is a real thing. That's what people say. The FANG stocks, the FANG's done this, the FANG's done that. So they've kind of made it a real thing. The closest I've seen you better get into it is QQQ. All right. Max B, you already know what time it is. Earnings. And I'm going to DM you back here shortly as soon as I get out of here, right? He says Apple earnings after the market that day. Apple's earnings is before the market is probably going to open up. You're going to have Amazon and Facebook going to put out their earnings too. Somebody says, good evening. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ruby says, good. Yes. William, he said, I own Tesla. And that's another one, a sleeper. Zoom. Zoom is moving into, he said he's owned Tesla and Zoom. So Tesla, Zoom is one that's becoming more and more prominent. As we look at this whole pandemic thing, as it starts to linger, Zoom is becoming more and more relevant. Zoom is worth more than all the airlines combined. That is crazy. So definitely, as I thought this was going to be a short-lived thing, but this is becoming a way of life. Everybody is Zooming, podcasting, YouTubing, things like that. Something that was for the little guys years ago, everybody's doing it now. So definitely I can see Zoom having a great earnings season this season. How you doing, Miss Beverly from St. Louis? Thank you for checking in. We got Paul Jean. He said, I'm in Haiti, all the way from Haiti. I think that's the first time we heard somebody for Haiti. All right, Haiti's in the building. PD Young, he's always tuned in. He said, great info, always. Texas is in the building. All right. Sometimes PD be in Pensacola. Sometimes he's in Texas. Thank you for checking out. Prince, looking to cart. Just saying. Carts. Okay, I heard of that before. CPRT is the symbol. All right. Okay. Al says, buy the dip. Yep. Antonio, what's going on? Tony, you're out in Philadelphia, I think, right? Tony said, or as my football coach would say, don't get caught with the eyes in the backfield. Great heads up, Prince. Exactly. I tried to be the athlete, but I wasn't that good. But I was out there. I never started. I always kind of rode the bench, stuff like that. But I was out there. When you play, he always say, "Hey, look, don't keep your feet dead on defense. Keep your feet alive. Stay on your toes." And you got to, in order to stay on your toes in the world of investing, you got to be able to know what is next and how is this going to affect the outturn of investing. Ladies and gentlemen, why do I focus so much on stocks? Because I remember back in 2008 when I was starting to invest, when the stock market crashed, so did everything. Stock market crashed in 2008. You saw real estate go down. You saw businesses go bankrupt, all because of the stock market. The stock market is the heartbeat of the entire economy. What stocks do reflects real estate. What stocks do reflect business. So if you know stocks, you know business. And on this show, I always talk about reading financial reports. As you start to read financial reports, it makes you better on business. So I believe that it's the fundamental, the foundation of our entire economy. Paul Jean says, wow. And Dr. Diggs, North Carolina is in the building. All right, Dr. Briggs. We got Mr. Briggs Sr. is in the building. Says, shout out to my Haitians, Max B. We got Haiti in the building. He says, hey, Prince, ATL is in the building. Good insight, bro. What do you think about XL? Y'all keep asking me about this XLY. I'm going to get into this one tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow, I will get into this one. But tonight, I just want to do a quick podcast episode. And if you haven't done so, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to know. You can catch us out on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google apps, whatever you can get a podcast from, you can download and get this the same exact content. Dr. Briggs said, just got on. Catch me up, please. We're going to do a quick recap, and we're going to be out of here. Pretty much, long story short, today we talked about what is the NASDAQ. We talked about, we looked over the stocks that are in the NASDAQ. We talked about what is the NASDAQ. We went over what are the stocks in the NASDAQ, right? We talked about the biggest. Y'all give me 1 second. Of course. Hey, cuz, let me give you a call right back, all right?
Okay.
All right. And we talked about what the stocks that are in the NASDAQ. Then we talked about the biggest stocks in the NASDAQ. Sorry about that, y'all. The biggest stocks in the NASDAQ. How to invest into the NASDAQ. And we talked about why October 29th will be so big. And the reason is you have 3 of the biggest stocks, the top 5 stocks in the NASDAQ will be reporting earnings on the 29th. When the market closed, Apple is going to report, Amazon is going to report, and Facebook is going to report. So when the market closes on the 28th, when the market opens up on the 29th, you're going to have 3 big companies all report at the same time. All right. And all 3 of these companies, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, makes up about 30%, almost 30% of the NASDAQ weight. And what they report will shape the NASDAQ. That's why it will be so big. Mr. Briggs, hopefully we went over that. All right. Yes, he said we need Uncle James. Uncle James will be back on my next in 2 weeks. He's going to be on my show in Hawaii. Y'all know I do a show in Hawaii, and y'all know I do a show in Hawaii and here in Denver. So Uncle James will be on in about 2 weeks. All right. And Maryland's in the house. Cliff Images says, watching from Maryland. All right. We got Maryland, had Haiti, North Carolina, Texas in the building, St. Louis, Memphis, Tennessee, Washington State, Sacramento, California, Omaha, Nebraska. We are all over the place tonight. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you guys and girls for tuning in and to the next video, podcast, cartoon, or whatever else crazy you see me do around the globe. I will be on tomorrow morning live, so we can talk about all this tomorrow morning. That will be Sunday morning around 11 a.m. 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, I will be on live here to talk, discuss everything that's going on, to answer more of your questions in detail. But until your next video, podcast, cartoon, or whatever else crazy you see me do around the globe, peace, be safe, I'm out, and thank you.